Good evening, Guam. I'm Jess Lujan. Welcome to this edition of The Buzz, right here and live in the studio. Of course, none other than my former colleague, Senator Frank Blas Jr., now candidate to Washington delegate, Republican candidate to Washington delegate. Congratulations, Frank.
Thank you, Senator.
I mean, I was looking forward to a hotly contested, heavily debated election leading up again for the people of Guam to decide on who they're going to send to Washington. Let's just start off and cut through the chase. What is Frank's agenda for Washington, D.C.?
Well, Frank's agenda in Washington, D.C. is to bring the voice of Guam to D.C. To talk on the issues that Guam has been waiting for some resolution and been wanting resolution on for so many years, in some cases decades. Obviously, Jess, as you know, over the last few years, I've worked feverishly on trying to correct and receive reimbursements for costs borne by our people, borne by the government, on behalf of the federal government, in such cases as the Compacts of Free Association. I've also looked into areas such as the payment in lieu of taxes for those federal lands, those lands being held by the federal government, whereas if those lands were in the hands of the owners, the rightful owners of these lands, the economic activity that could have been derived could have greatly assisted in being able to pay for some of the services that we need on this island. And there is a program that the Interior has that is supposed to offset those amounts that could have been derived with a payment, on an annual payment. We've been grossly underpaid under that program. We want to continue to look in those areas. Of course, it's getting final resolution for our war survivors, of course, through the war claims efforts. You know, and then also trying to get better services and getting better services for our veterans who for a long time have had to struggle with just trying to get the services they rightly deserve, that services that are provided elsewhere but are very difficult for our veterans to be able to obtain. Because of the thousands of miles they have to travel to be able to get that, and see if we can close those gaps.
Now, let me ask you this, because some folks will say, and I'm sure your critics will say, hey, Frank, I know I've worked with you a couple terms that we were senators together, very aggressive in your pursuit of the compact impact reimbursement to the tune of, I think it's more than $500 million now at this point, and you're constantly at it. But your critics will say, Senator, wait a minute, get real. You're up against a five-term delegate at this point. She knows the nooks and crannies of Washington, and if one who's been there, who's kind of grown up and amongst them, if she can't do that, what makes you more capable of attaining that for the people?
Well, first off, I know the nooks and crannies too of Washington, D.C. myself. I think, Jess, Senator, you know that even when you and I served, and prior to serving also as Senator, I served as the Homeland Security Advisor. I've had the opportunity of being able to work with many entities. So, you know, I know the doors that I need to knock on. I know the people that I need to speak to. But I bring also now a fresh voice, you know, a new energy to these efforts. Trying to move, in some cases, probably the same issues, but with different ideas on how to be able to move this. You know, so I want to put my hat in the ring and say, look, okay, and granted, yes, she's run for 5 terms. You know, she's had some success in some of the things I think, but I think also we have to look at some of the realities. You know, the Congress is changing. The face of Washington D.C. is changing, and this was pretty evident over the last election. Okay. Quite honestly,
and hopefully this election comes as well,
and this election too as well. I think it's going to be there's going to be, for lack of a better term, progressive change.
Progressive change. There we go.
Okay, because where now the Republicans, of course, control the House of Representatives side. There's very good cause to believe that they're also going to control. Now they're going to take over control of the Senate, and we stand a very good chance of being able to take over the presidency. Okay, so
actually, can I stop for a second, because I was listening to President Obama's State of the Union today, and in some entities, I think he was a Republican.
Yeah, it did sound Republican. I want to thank his speechwriters. There were issues that he talked about there, with regards to some of the breaks that concern the issues. I, for one, my wife being, of course, an educator, a teacher, and listening, to some of the issues that she has to deal with on a daily basis. But I like the fact that he wants to move now the nation's educational system to go beyond the test. Don't teach to the test. Teach to what the kids need to learn. Give them the flexibility, and I like that.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that his writers, provided and did a lot of this stuff. What I felt a little, I guess, alienated from was a lot of it tend to look at things that were occurring in the contiguous United States, 50 states.
50 states.
And I felt that it didn't extend out to the territories. It didn't extend out to where we were at.
Yeah. Hey, hold that thought. Hey, you want to chime in our conversation with Senator Frank Blas Jr., now Republican candidate to Washington delegate? Chime in by dialing 632-8255 or 632-TALK. We'll be right back.